Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Former Athlete Society. We have our live YouTube live Q&A, and I'm excited, right? We're going to go along with this one, real talk, real tactics, and a few stories that I probably haven't told much. So I'm excited to get into our show today. There's a couple logistics things I need to do real quick before we jump into the live show. So I got a couple different questions that have been asked. I'm excited to dig deep into all of these. We have a fantastic Q&A lined up for us. Sorry, I'm looking at my screen here. This is what happens when we're doing these live shows. It is chaotic. It is different. It's unpredictable, right? And that's the portion of our show that I absolutely love. It's just not like a typical, pre-recorded YouTube video that we can just throw up here at any single time. So I'm excited that you're here. Again, if you've never joined us on any of these Q&A calls before, I host them every single Thursday. And whether you're live with us right now here on YouTube or you're watching the replay, I appreciate you just taking the time for yourself. We're going to run through the 5 questions that were submitted through our Former Athlete Society. And these questions are super cool because they bridge that gap between what it was like being an athlete and what it's like now trying to balance all of the various demands that you probably have: work, family, training, life, etc. So I want this to be super tactical, super practical, and the kind of advice that you can use by the end of the week, right? Super meaningful advice that isn't just great in theory and you can apply it. So I'm going to give some examples, things to do, things I do personally, certainly, what I've learned coaching hundreds of athletes. So let's get right into it. Question number 1 that was submitted to our Former Athlete Society. Again, if you have yet to do this and you're like, Adam, what is the Former Athlete Society? You can head over to adamringler.com. I have a Former Athlete Society subscription tier. Head there, sign up for it, and you get access to our accountability calls, our master classes, our Q&As, and you will jump right to the line to be able to ask these types of questions. So this is all from our Former Athlete Society committee and from those people that are joining us in our society. So this is a great question, and I want to dive into this. This is a direct message, a DM from Lawrence. He's out of Minneapolis. He's a former college baseball pitcher, and it says, Adam, is it okay to train on machines? I'm seeing these people in our gym, and they're huge, and they all train on machines rather than barbells like I used to. Some of the biggest people in the gym don't deadlift. And that should probably make you at least raise an eyebrow, right? So let's dive deep to what that means, right? First, understand that there are 2 realities happening at once. On one hand, the guys that you're talking about, right? The Branch Warrens, the Ronnie Colemans, the Dorian Yates, those were bodybuilders, athletes who built their foundation with bars, heavy compound movements, and years of progressive overload. And then they probably used machines at times, right? But their base was heavy loaded compound movements, right? On the other hand, a lot of folks who are big now, they might have built most of their mass years ago from compound work, or they may be skilled at hypertrophy focused sort of machine training and nutrition. The key point is this: the foundation first. You want your training to develop resilient joints, balanced posterior chain, and real force production. That's what matters, right? Real force. And that usually comes from barbell work. things like squats or deadlifts or hip hinge patterns, loaded carries, very Dan John-esque. These teach the system how to handle load, coordinate massive motor patterns, and build connective tissue. And all of that stuff is critical. Machines are a great tool, sure, yeah. They let you target muscles with less technical demand and often with less central nervous system costs. If someone has a legitimate need to avoid heavy bars, maybe it's an old surgery, an injury that responds better to machines or things like that, or maybe a tactical requirement to avoid spinal loading or something, I totally get that. But what I don't want you to do is just simply skip the compound movements and that education that comes early in your training life and expect that machines can replace that. That's just simply not in your best interest. It's like telling that 12-year-old to train like LeBron James in every way, right? LeBron trains specifically for his body with years of programming and a need behind him. You need foundational development first. And that said, machines are powerful when used intelligently. Sure, yeah. Use them for high volume hypertrophy phases or finishing work after heavy compound movements. And or for specific isolation where a joint needs maybe some load sharing or you need to limit some translational forces through our body. But don't let machines be your baseline. If you have early access to a barbell and are healthy enough to use it, then use it, right? Do those things. Train the movements that teach your nervous system how to move, right? And then use the machines to add volume or protect your joints when needed. But for former athletes, especially, especially ex-college former athletes, we need to keep things like squats and hinge work and loaded carries in your program, at least as maintenance anchors. The guys that you might be idolizing or the huge guys in your gym, yeah, sure, right? They probably didn't skip that work. It's not nostalgia, it's reality, right? So don't limit yourself to just one modality. Use all of the modalities at your disposal. Now, great question, and certainly one that warrants at least being asked. If you have yet to do this, a couple different things before we progress, right? You knew I was going to ask this. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, right? Become part of this YouTube channel, something that we're building here at the Former Athlete Society. The lights go off all the time, right? But hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. Join us today, right? I want you to be a part of this channel and what we're building here. Now, this next question is one of the most commonly asked questions, with a question that I get all of the time. And I think it's because most people really want both outcomes at once. Now, this is out from Monica. She's out of Oklahoma City, and she asks me the following. Coach, I want to recomp now that my gymnastics days are behind me. I'm a 33-year-old mother of two and want to get back to having some decent muscle mass, but I also want to lose a little body fat. Is this possible? Yeah, it's possible. You can build muscle while losing fat, but you have to think like a marathoner, not a sprinter. And so the short answer is, Monica, yeah, but it's slow and it's very picky about who experiences it fastest, right? If you're fairly untrained or you're returning after a long layoff, body recomposition happens more quickly. Your newbie gains and muscle memory and improved nutrition can produce simultaneous muscle growth and fat loss all at the same time. But if you're a seasoned lifter, and based on your gymnastics background, you probably are, recomp is possible, but microscopic compared to dedicated phases. So here's the practical roadmap that I often give. First, decide what your priority is and your timeline. If you want fast, visible changes, pick one goal at a time. Either a clean bulk to gain some muscle mass or a controlled cut to maybe shed some unwanted adipose tissue. And if you accept a longer window, a longer duration, plan for maybe 6 months to a year with small, measurable progress markers. Use an app or something like MacroFactor or some way to actually chart your progress. Now, step 1, protein. Eat at least 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day, right? That is a non-negotiable. I've said it on the Former Athlete Society before. I'll repeat it. 0.8 to 1.2 is pretty, that's about the range. I think as a bare minimum marker, 1 gram for every 1 pound, right? That's super simple. That's right in the middle of that 0.8 to 1.2. But if you need a little bit more protein, and most of us do as we're aging, I would shoot for that 1.2. Now, protein is a non-negotiable currency for enabling muscle growth, especially when your calories aren't spilling into a surplus. Now, step 2 is the training stimulus. You have to keep strength training heavy, progressive on your core compound movements, right? So maybe 2 to 3 times a week. We've talked about that on the Former Athlete Society. 2 resistance days, 2 cardio days. That's a bare minimum effective dose of what we need. Now, 2 to 3, certainly we could actually start to see a little bit more targeted hypertrophy, and you'll get that exposure for those lagging muscle groups. Now, the trick is to keep enough mechanical tension to stimulate growth while creating maybe a slight daily caloric deficit overall. Step 3, cardio and NEAT. Increase your daily movement, right? And you got to do that sort of modestly. Think extra walks, short bike rides, a zone 2 conditioning workout, a HIIT workout 3 times per week. Not to destroy your recovery, but enough to maybe tilt the energy balance favoring that deficit. Now, step 4 is managing your recovery. Things like sleep, stress, consistency matter more during recomps than what people actually realize. So if your sleep is deprived, your body won't rebuild as efficiently, even with perfect macros. I've seen that time and time again. And when that happens, people just end up getting frustrated about their progress or the lack thereof. So we got to really be diligent about stress management. Step 5 is small calorie tweaks. So on training days, maybe you keep your calories a little higher. On rest days, maybe slightly lower. Not gigantic swings. Somewhere in the affinity of 200 to 300 calories is probably plenty. You cycle that weekly rather than sort of daily confusion. And that helps give muscle a substrate on heavy days and training days, and then maybe a little bit more like fat burning veggies on lighter days. So be smart about your nutrition, work with a registered dietitian or a nutritionalist, and really kind of hone in on those things. That will go a really long way. Now, remember this, the visual changes will be slower. So don't chase a magic 12-week program. Recomposition actually favors patience. So progressive overload, things like that, without constant metabolic crash. And a focus on protein and resistance training, all of those things are necessary. So if you need faster change, then choose one target first. But if you commit to maybe a half a year to a year, you'd be amazed at what a slow, sustainable recomposition that keeps strength really high and then improves that composition that you're probably looking for. So great question, Monica. I appreciate you asking that. And hopefully that helps, right? Hopefully that gives you a little information. So this is a point where I got to recommend a couple different things. If you have yet to follow me at adamringler.com or Adam Ringler on the social medias, Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, here certainly on IG, then I'd like you to pause, take a moment, head over there, follow what we're doing. I'm dropping videos literally all the time, resources, educational content for you. So I'd love for you to do that. If you haven't already, join our YouTube channel, right? This is where we're doing live calls like this right now. I want you to be a part of our YouTube channel as well. right? Join our former athlete society and this community that we're building together. So this next question comes from Salt Lake City, and it is our former athlete society member, Luke, and he's a former college football player, and he's asking the following. As I'm approaching 40, Coach, what should I be focusing on right now to improve my health, performance, and fitness? And turning 40 isn't the end of your athleticism. It's the start of a smarter and maybe tougher training process. First of all, if you're approaching 40 and you're feeling nervous, you're not alone. But you're not old. This is a transition year for many of us where the decisions that we make shape the next 2 decades. And we have to be smart about that. The core idea is this: shift from all-out volume and maximal frequency to programming that values your recovery, your durability, and a strong foundational movement. And there are some practical, really high impact changes that I often recommend to this age. Number 1, protect your recovery. Sleep needs to be sacred. So you got to aim for at least a consistent window and don't let that late night caffeine or screens steal the early part of your sleep cycle. I've talked about this in other videos. I think it's so critically important that we get our sleep dialed in, right? If you're really focused on improving your sleep, a lot of other things compound based on just getting your recovery right. Now, 2, keep lifting heavy, but you got to be smart about it. You don't need to chase 1 rep PRs every month. You're 40, right? Let's be smart about this. So, maintain strength with heavy sets, maybe a little lower frequencies, say like heavy doubles or triples, maybe twice a week on your main lifts, if that's the case. And support your training with higher quality accessory work. I think the older you get, the more the accessory work is important. Now, 3, prioritize your joint health and your mobility. So you got to start your sessions with maybe a sensible mobility routine, and you have to prioritize maybe that movement quality over ego. So add a weekly session dedicated solely to mobility and prehab. Now, in this show, we've talked in the past about for every decade that you've been alive, you should at least dedicate 5 to 10 minutes of mobility work. So you're getting 40, man. Like, you need to at least have 4 sessions, 4 5-minute sessions, 20 minutes a week dedicated to your mobility, right? And certainly prehab. Now, 4, prioritize maybe protein intake, maybe some calcium for bone health and muscle maintenance. Get a baseline if you haven't already. And listen, you need to do this, right? Baseline blood panel. Guys, I can't emphasize how important as you get older it is to get your blood, right? And measure that. Understand what your vitamin D is, your fasting glucose, a lipid profile, a metabolic panel, right? And listen, right? You got to be smart about these things. You're getting a little bit older. That baseline of liver values and your metabolic health and your lipids, that gives you a roadmap for things that you can manage nutritionally. Now, 5, manage your inflammation smartly. So things like omega-3 supplementation, focusing on reducing processed seed oils, prioritizing anti-inflammatory meals. So things like leafy greens and berries and fatty fish, all of those things will help certainly a lot of your heart and health markers. I'd say 6, put testing in place. So screen for these markers, right, annually rather than guessing. So that's where the blood panels and things like that come into play. 7, maintain maybe some meaningful intensity. So don't let age, I'm 40 now, be a permission slip to become sedentary, right? I know 60-year-olds here out in Boulder, Colorado that are absolutely rad, that do way more intense things than a lot of people, right? Skiing double black diamonds, that are running ultra marathons, that are, backpacking 14ers. So just because you're 40 doesn't mean that you are now, have to be sedentary. So you have to fight for strength, for power, for speed where possible, right? With short, sharp sessions and quality rest, right? But also you have to, maybe change our mindset about things, the narrative. Instead of I'm getting older, reframe that message to I'm becoming a stronger version of my future self. I think that's really powerful as well. That subtle change alters your daily choices. Finally, social and emotional health matters. So make sure you're leaning into your family, your friends, your coworkers, your partner, whatever that might be, because you need that accountability from other people. The number 40 is a milestone that can be empowering if you treat it like a new season and not the downward decline of your health and your life. So be smart with how you approach that. So let's move on. Where are we at in this Q&A session? We are about 21 minutes into this live YouTube call. If you are joining us here, welcome. I host these every once in a while. Sometimes I throw them up live. So I appreciate, let me double check on this screen. I don't often look at comments if we do these things live. So I got a lot going on our screens. And quite frankly, let's go to our YouTube studio. I really don't know how to monitor our live comments. So I'm still trying to figure this out. We are streaming live. That's awesome. How do I get the some of our live videos? Okay, we are doing this. One live viewer, appreciate you right now. Okay, video comments. That's exactly where I want. That way I can get an opportunity to answer any of our live questions by all accounts. If you're watching this live right now, right, just know you could ask a question, and it's my job to give you those answers in real time. But if you don't have it, then I'm just going through our former Athlete Society submitted questions, and I'm answering those ones, right? So just kind of giving it a look. Okay, we got unresponded, responded, new replies. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, at some point in time, I'll pull those into the screen. That way we can display those questions like a lot of YouTubers do. Oh my God, I threw up in my mouth just saying I'm a YouTuber. All right, so let's move on. A couple things before we do, as we always do. If you have yet to hit the notification bell to this YouTube channel, do so right now, right? That helps grow what we're doing here in the Former Athlete Society. Get some of these questions and answers and accountability concepts and master classes out to the masses, whether it's other strength and conditioning professionals, whether it's other former athletes, whether it's just lay people that just want to get better. Doing so helps. So appreciate your support on that. Let's move on, because I think this next question is super fun. And this next one comes from Donnell. He's out of Atlanta, and he's asking the Former Athlete Society this. Coach, I am seeing online, sorry, reading it from my screen, it's kind of hard. I'm seeing this online post claiming that Costco is now selling a low calorie but high protein drink. How can both be true? Protein actually contains calories. Okay, that's true. I don't get it. Okay. Well, let's think about it real quick. Some protein drinks claim crazy protein numbers. And here's how to tell if they're real or fake, right? A lot of people have asked about amino-spiking. Here it is. I'm exposing the industry. Amino-spiking, because it's a real thing. And the industry has somewhat wrestled with it. So let me describe what this is. This is a basic concept And it's that manufacturers of different protein or other supplements add cheap, free-form amino acids, such as glycine or taurine or branched-chain amino acids, BCAAs, to increase the crude protein measurement on the label without actually providing the full spectrum of whole protein building blocks. All right, let's just let that digest for a moment. Now, this practice often raises two critical and key issues. One, crude protein testing counts nitrogen and can be sort of gamified, right? Two, free amino acids don't have the same sort of anabolic effect as a complete protein source like a whey isolate. So, how do you protect yourself from this, right? Number one, you have to read the nutrition label with a skeptical eye. If a protein lists total protein, but then shows an unusually high presence of free-form amino acids on the ingredient panel, that's a red flag. Second, look for products that actually list or provide a full amino acid profile, or list things like whey protein isolate or casein or milk protein isolate as the main ingredient, something like that. Third, favor brands with maybe third-party testing, so things that have certifications such as NSF, Certified for Sport, or Informed Sport. That means that independent labs actually verify what's in the product. If you are a current athlete, then you should be doing those things already. You shouldn't be consuming products that is not NSF certified for sport, because you don't want to risk your eligibility by having some sort of tainted supplement or something like that. So consult with your registered dietitian, your athletic trainer, if you're consuming a supplement regardless. Now, 4, avoid products that market crude protein heavily without context. So in your instance, I actually know what you're talking about. Like for this sparkling protein drink specifically, realize those products often rely on things like isolates and sweeteners. And they can be convenient and useful for travel or as a snack replacement. But if the label is vague, or if there's a suspiciously high protein number at a very low calorie, be skeptical. And then finally, if you're concerned about a specific Costco sparkling protein drink, check the ingredient list. Look for the sources of protein, the presence of added free amino acids, and any quality seals, things like that. If it lists whey protein isolate or a milk protein isolate and has third-party verification, it's likely fine. If it relies mostly on free amino acids and doesn't show testing, consider a more transparent alternative, right? So for athletes and former athletes who are dialed in on protein, nothing beats a scoop of verified whey isolate mixed into water or a simple whole food meal. But for convenience, a trusted sparkling protein source, I guess, could work. But make sure you vet it, right? Just do your due diligence and know what you're getting. Now, this next question, before I dive into it, my last and final plea, we can get these YouTube analytic numbers up, guys, right? We could get a couple more subscribers off the back end of this call. We could end up getting a little bit more notification bell ring. So join us, right? Add a comment to this. Become part of what we're building here on this YouTube channel. Now, all the way up north out of Boston, this next question comes from Matthew. And Matthew is a former tennis athlete, and he asked the following question: Coach, what's your stance on pre-workout drinks? We're going to get into that. Okay. I see people in the gym, and they're always carrying their little supplement bottles around in their gym bag. All right. You want the truth? You can't handle the truth. I don't do pre-workouts, powders. Coffee is my pre-workout, and here is why. Let's be honest. Stimulants are a personal choice, And it's probably a culture now in the gym. There are people who run on pre-workout and hit probably amazing sessions. And then there are others who do better with nothing but coffee or water. And I probably fall into the later camp for several reasons, right? Number one, I love coffee. That's just my first and foremost. I love drinking coffee. Coffee gives me a reliable caffeine. It's a small little mood boost and it's consistent. And here's how I think about stimulants, number one, versus coffee. First, know your baseline tolerance. If you sip caffeine all day long, like a pre-workout, a Ghost energy drink, a Celsius, a Red Bull, a Monster, a Rockstar, or who knows whatever powders that exist out there from supplement companies, right? A pre-workout with 350 milligrams of caffeine will hit you differently than someone who drinks just 1 cup of regular coffee. That higher dose increases your blood pressure. It speeds your heart rate and it makes sleep worse if you consume it late in the day. Now, secondly, read the ingredient lists. Many pre-workouts give you caffeine plus, who knows? It could be beta-alanine, could be citrulline, and sometimes it's things like DMHA or yohimbine or who knows. So buyer beware. Those can be effective, maybe for performance, but comes with some side effects. Number one, beta-alanine often causes sort of that harmless tingling, but citrulline sometimes helps with pumps and creatine helps long-term energy storage. But a lot of times stimulants are overkill, right? Third, cycling is key, right? If you rely on pre-workouts every single day for the rest of your workouts and life, right, the tolerance piles up really fast. You might think that you need more for the same effect, and that's a slippery slope. So if you're going to consume coffee or something like that, take a break every once in a while, guys, right? That's just being smart. Fourth, consider maybe non-stimulant performance stacks, right? A mix of creatine, beta-alanine, maybe a small dose of arginine, add some sodium and magnesium and potassium, some electrolytes. That can enhance performance without a stimulant spike. You don't always need to be overly caffeinated and wired. And fifth, maybe think about timing. If your session is later in the day, coffee or high stimulatory pre-workout will probably harm your sleep and your recovery. I personally, for me, I stop all caffeinated anything by 12 p.m. I'm done. I'm not allowing any caffeine in my body after 12 p.m. So, right, I'm trying to respect my nervous system. So former athletes often have this wired nervous system already. We've responded to adrenaline for years now. And stimulants can sometimes mask poor sleep or poor nutrition. And I prefer just assessing my readiness honestly. I use coffee strategically as an alertness tool, but not a band-aid for poor preparation. So if a former athlete or a client wants to use a pre-workout, I've coached them to maybe test one ingredient at a time. Choose products that, again, are NSF safe for sport, transparent, a third-party tested, and schedule maybe some stimulant-free weeks. Make caffeine a tool, not a crutch. So that would be my recommendation for you. I think that's we're about 33 minutes in. That's our 5 questions today. I want to thank you for hanging out with me today. Now, if you've taken one thing away from today, let it be this. Training is a long game. Machines are tools. They're not replacements, right? Recomposition takes patience and really some protein consumption. Turning 40 means training smarter with better programming and better recovery. You have to vet your supplements and be really diligent and smart with what you're consuming, right? Especially protein drinks and the amino-spiking. And then lastly, use stimulants like caffeine or yerba mate or who knows whatever powders with respect for your sleep and your nervous system. Now, if you are in the Former Athlete Society already, I want you to drop a note in this thread, right, on the article that I'm going to post. Which of these 5 things are you actually going to do this week, right? And I'll pull up a few responses for next time. We'll make it part of the next accountability call when we go live for that. So I want to thank you for listening. And again, just as a reminder for everyone, if you have yet to do it, head over to adamringler.com, sign up for our subscription, the Former Athlete Society, and you can get real-time access to these type of videos. Whether you're dropping, you can get your questions answered, you can get on the live accountability calls, and you can have access to all of our master classes. I think that would be rad. Thanks for listening. Train hard, eat well, sleep enough, and I will see you on our next call. Appreciate every single one of you, y'all. Take care.